Okay, let's unpack this. Today, we are embarking on a truly exceptional deep dive. This isn't just history. It's a sweeping, deeply personal story that one of you, our listeners, sent in.
It really is. We're tracking one family's path across 20th century Korea.
And what's so powerful is seeing how these huge historical events, war trauma, economic booms, didn't just happen around them. They've physically and emotionally, forged their entire lives.
Exactly. What we have is this incredible chronological narrative. It starts centuries ago with clan mythology, and it ends with this really profound philosophical reflection from the adult child who lived through it all.
So our mission today is to really trace that core thread of resilience. We want to understand the mechanism of that sacrifice.
Right.
How does the Korean War just shatter a noble lineage? How did something like the Sejmol movement actually provide an opportunity? And, the agonizing calculus that drives a man to sacrifice his health in the Saudi desert.
It's just an unbelievable work ethic, and it's all driven by this one single goal, making sure the next generation has a better life, specifically through education.
To really get the scope of that, we have to start at the beginning, way back.
We do. We have to start with the Papyeong-Yoon clan. The roots here are ancient, going all the way back to the founder, Yoon Shin-dal. He was a key figure in establishing the Goryeo dynasty.
And he was given this incredibly prestigious title, Tiyasa Samjung Daegwang. So this was a family steeped in, honor and national importance.
Oh, absolutely. And the origin story is pure mythology. It's fantastic.
That's amazing. The story goes that Yoon Shin-dal just sort of emerges from a golden chest found floating in a pond.
Yes, Yeongnyeon Pond, amidst thunder and lightning. And he wasn't just a normal baby. He had these unique markings that signaled his destiny.
A red mole, 81 carp scales on his armpits, and 7 black spots on his feet. You can't make this stuff up.
And that carp connection becomes central to their identity. The fifth descendant, General Yoon Gwan, was apparently saved from the Khitan army when a school of carp formed a living bridge for him to escape across a river.
So to repay this ancient favor, the clan members, they just don't eat carp.
Exactly. It's a symbol of generational debt and honor.
It's such a beautiful, almost mythic picture of nobility, but that centuries-old honor was about to get tested by something far more brutal than Khitan armies.
Yes. We jump forward to the 1950s, and this is where history just completely interrupts the mythology.
So the grandfather, he was born in 1900, the third son of a wealthy family, educated in a traditional seodang.
And by 1950, he's the dongjang, the village head in Oksan. But during the Korean War, the ideological lines just blurred into chaos. His own brother became a local partisan.
And that connection was, it was catastrophic for him.
It was. After the main conflict, the grandfather was falsely accused of being a communist accomplice.
He's brought in for questioning, and the sources, the description of the torture is just chilling. Severe beatings and this horrific use of chili powder forced into his mouth and nose.
They were systematically breaking him. The goal wasn't just information, it was to annihilate their status, their entire life.
But the grandmother, her response is just this act of immediate, desperate ingenuity.
She saved his life. She fed him the urine of their young son, who is the father in the story, he was just a boy then, as a kind of traditional remedy to counteract the trauma.
It's hard to imagine a more potent symbol of just primal survival.
Absolutely. But the cost was everything. They had to abandon their home, their wealth, everything. They fled to a distant village, Mahari, for refuge.
And the grandfather, physically and psychologically just shattered, he couldn't work again. The grandmother had to carry the family alone.
And that is the moment the narrative pivots. The weight of survival immediately shifts to the next generation.
To the father. He had watched his entire world crumble, and he has to drop out of school after elementary.
His whole focus becomes supporting his younger siblings. The tenacity is just, it's incredible to read about.
He studied at a seodang in the morning, right? Soaking up lessons. Then he'd spend the day chopping wood, and at night he's weaving these heavy straw mats, gamani.
And all that labor was to pay for his siblings' high school education. His mind was apparently so sharp, the village elders just lamented that he couldn't continue his own studies.
This combination of raw intellect and just sheer physical drive, it defined him.
It even extended to how he managed land. He pulls off this brilliant economic move. He sells a small piece of land they had for a high price.
Okay.
And he uses that money to buy 2,200 pyong, which is an enormous area of cheap, infertile riverbed land that nobody wanted.
And he didn't just own it, he reclaimed it.
Day after day. He hauled manure, he changed the soil structure over time, and he systematically transformed this useless ground into fertile land. He grew rice, peaches, persimmons.
He literally engineered opportunity out of dirt.
But now we have to shift perspective to the mother, because her story completely changes the dynamic we've been tracking.
Her life was also defined by this intense sense of obligation. She was the eldest of 7, and her father couldn't work because he'd had a leg amputated.
So she became the backbone of the household. She'd collect herbs and vegetables to sell at the market. And here's the quiet tragedy. She never got to go to elementary school.
But she wanted to learn so badly. The sources say she taught herself to read Dukmun, the Korean script, alone on a mountainside, just watching her friends walk past on their way to school.
After she and the father married, her hardship continued. She was treated like a servant by her in-laws, constantly harassed because she came from a poor family.
It was that abuse that finally pushed the father to seek a new start somewhere else.
He moves to Gohan in Gangwon-do in the 1970s. And this wasn't a random move. It was timed perfectly with the Saemal movement and the coal boom.
Right, so the Saemal movement was this government initiative supporting rural infrastructure. It meant lots of new construction work.
And he gets a job with the help of a relative checking sand quantities for construction. But that relative, his uncle, commits this profound betrayal.
It's shocking. For 3 years, the uncle just redirected all of the father's wages to pay for his own son's education.
So the father was working for literally nothing. It's just unbelievable exploitation, even within the family.
When he finally threatened to quit, the uncle reluctantly gets him a job at the Samchep coal mine. A brutal place, but at least he could earn his own wages there.
And this leads to the mother's really dramatic journey to join him. Her in-laws did not want to lose their free labor, so the grandmother actually hid the father's letter with his new address.
But the mother, just desperate to escape, she finds the address secretly. She waits until she's recovered from giving birth to their youngest child, and then she just flees.
She left with the narrator, who was 4 years old, and a 5-month-old infant. It was an act of pure courage.
They get to Gohan at 4:30 in the morning. It's freezing cold. And she has only 431 left.
Which, to give you some context, was basically nothing. Not enough for a meal, not even a bus ticket.
So she had to walk over 5 kilometers in the cold with her children to find their new home. You just have to imagine that desperation, that focus.
And that decision lands the family right in the middle of this mining town crucible. The father is working in safety lamp management.
We need to pause here and really understand what life was like in these mines, especially leading up to the huge 1980 Sabuk general strike.
It was known as the killing pit. That's what everyone called it. You're working deep underground, temperatures up to 40 degrees Celsius, constant risk of collapse.
And you're breathing in this toxic mix of coal dust, stone dust, chemicals. And the pay was, it was criminally low, under 180,000 KRW a month.
That was considered a starvation wage even back in 1980. The entire system was a powder keg.
And the sources detail the spark perfectly. An auxiliary union leader, Lee Jae-gi, who already had a history of embezzling funds.
Right. He secretly colludes with management and agrees to only a 20% wage increase, which was nowhere near enough.
And the workers just erupted. The violence was immediate. A police jeep deliberately sped into the protesting crowd, injuring 4 miners.
And that just ignited the full uprising. They demanded a 30% raise, a 400% bonus, and for the leader to resign. They seized the union office, the mining office, even the police station.
What's so crucial is that the whole community was involved. The miners' wives were right there in the thick of it, throwing scones they'd carried in their skirts.
For 3 days, the workers controlled the entire town of Cebu.
But it was so short-lived. 3 weeks later, martial law expands nationwide, and the crackdown was severe. Mass arrests, harsh repression for everyone involved.
And that instability, that constant threat of violence, it forced the family's next huge pivot.
In 1980, the parents realized the coal town offered no future for their children. The father, who was still haunted by his own lost education, he made the decision. They had to get to Seoul.
They moved in the spring of 1981, and here's the great irony and the measure of their commitment. This dirt-poor family moves straight into one of the most expensive areas, Bangbadongbampo, for the schools. They were betting everything they didn't have on the quality of education in the capital.
And the struggle was just immediate. The 3 sons start delivering newspapers right away. The mother, refusing to be beaten, decides to start her own business.
She buys a cart and supplies to sell hot dogs on the street.
But she quit after 3 years. And the reason why is so revealing about her pride.
It is. The source explains she felt this profound shame, this dread of being recognized by anyone from her hometown. She didn't want them to see her selling street food.
So that emotional decision forces another pivot. She invests this huge sum of money, 700,000 KRW, for 1 month of training to learn handbox sewing.
And she had a real talent for it, a natural gift. She quickly started working as a seamstress.
Meanwhile, the father is using his old military skills from the Signal Corps. He famously worked welding copper coils into the floor of the Jamsil swimming pool, but the biggest gamble was still to come.
1984. He sees an ad in the newspaper.
And that ad was for the massive Middle East construction boom. This was the era where Korean companies were getting billions in contracts from Saudi Arabia.
It was basically the engine, right? The thing that powered South Korea's whole economic miracle.
And they specifically wanted Korean workers. They had this global reputation as hard workers on low pay, uniquely willing to endure terrible conditions to send money home.
So the father applies, he passes the test, and he leaves for the desert. But 6 months in, the heat, the bad conditions, the lime in the water, he develops crippling gallstones.
He's in severe pain, chills, vomiting. He's thousands of miles from decent medical care.
And this is where the economic calculus becomes just agonizing. His supervisor tells him to just drink beer, which supposedly helped pass the stones, instead of flying home for surgery.
And the reason, the critical detail, the company would only pay his airfare home if he completed his full 1-year contract.
To save the family the cost of that plane ticket, which would have wiped out his savings, he stays. He endures the illness and the heat for another 6 months past his minimum, 1.5 years in total.
That one decision, driven purely by the fear of losing that money, it tells you everything.
When he finally returns in 1986, he gets stable work installing phones using that military experience. And it's through his new coworkers that the family finds a new kind of community.
A spiritual one.
Yes, he has this genuine conversion experience. He shows up to a prayer meeting on a rainy day. His shoes and socks are soaked and full of holes, and the church members just give him a new, dry pair of socks.
Such a simple act.
But he saw it as true love. After years of betrayal and trauma, this small, practical kindness was the moment of stability they'd been searching for.
But the physical toll on the mother's body, it continued. There are 3 major health crises that just underscore the debt she paid.
The first, while the father was in Saudi, she had severe hemorrhaging from overwork, bleeding from her nose, her mouth, her ears.
And she checked out of the hospital after 1 day because of the cost and the deadlines for the clothes she was sewing.
Then a near-fatal condition discovered on a family trip to a water park. Doctors said she had 3 months to live without a hysterectomy. And then in 2005, a cerebral infarction, a stroke.
Requiring this massive surgery from her leg all the way to her head.
It's a history written on her body. But what's so fascinating is how her final recovery was tied not just to rest, but to finding a new purpose.
In 2006, the adult child, our narrator, offers her a job at their growing company. It was 1.5 million KRW a month just to sit there because she'd become afraid to even go outside.
But that job was restorative. She started doing light work, cleaning, moving things. She got the nickname Rina Auntie.
She started wearing makeup again, taking phone calls. Her confidence came back. Her vitality returned so much that she even asked for and got a raise.
She was productive, she was valued, she was healthy again, and the final detail is just delightful. In 2011, when the narrator got married, she was fired so she could retire.
And she joked she would report an unfair dismissal to the labor board. She had found her place again on her own terms.
So what does this whole monumental journey mean? The narrator ends with this really profound insight from Adlerian psychology.
After a life that was defined by nonstop, required action chopping wood, sewing, enduring the desert, the ultimate lesson is learning to value the existence of others, not just what they do or achieve.
It's the perfect synthesis of the whole story. The parents' journey isn't defined by the low pay or the trauma. Their value is in their sheer presence, their survival.
A celebration of the fact that they simply are.
Exactly.
We've tracked this family from fleeing persecution in the 50s, through economic betrayal, the Sabuk strike, the sacrifice in the Saudi desert. Every single step taken for the next generation.
That generation is often called the candles, right? They burn themselves out to provide light for their children's future. They endured to create the reality that so many live in today.
And that leads us to our final provocative thought for you to consider. How does understanding their specific detailed path, their genius with the land, their courage in the city, their persistence through illness, How does that change your perception of the foundation your own life is built on?
What hidden struggles in your own family tree are the true and often unsung architects of your present security?